My friends, if you find yourself awakened between the hours of 3 and 5 in the morning, you must understand that this is not mere coincidence. In the quiet hours before dawn, the veil between consciousness and the unconscious is at its most delicate. This hour belongs not to the ego, which slumbers still, but to the self greater, older, eternal. It is during this time that many souls are stirred from sleep, not by noise or dreams alone, but by the call of something within, something beyond the reach of rational thought. To wake in these hours is to be invited into communion with what lies beneath. In the language of alchemy, this is the nigredo, the blackness, the beginning of transformation. One must not rush to dismiss this experience with material explanations. To be roused at this hour is a moment of initiation, a rupture in the ordinary which offers contact with the deeper strata of the psyche. It is in this sacred disturbance that the soul calls us to listen, to attend. Ask yourself, what within me seeks voice? What forgotten part wishes to be heard? You see, the modern man is prone to flee from discomfort, to label all mystery as pathology. But psychology, if it is to be worthy of the soul, must not flee from the unknown. Rather, it must court it, sit beside it like an old friend. So, I say, when you wake in these hours, do not immediately seek return to unconscious slumber. Be still, watch, wait. The psyche does not speak in words, but in symbols and sensations. Attend carefully, for the message is subtle and often missed. This awakening is a gesture from the unconscious. And the unconscious, my dear listener, is not merely a repository of repressed content, it is the wellspring of renewal, the source of life itself. To wake at such hours is to stand at the threshold of a great and ancient mystery. Do not shut the door, enter it. The first thing you must do when stirred at this sacred hour is to resist the compulsion to distract yourself. Do not reach for the glowing screen or seek the comfort of the rational mind. Instead, turn inward. Become still. The psyche wishes to speak, but not in the vulgar language of entertainment or distraction. It speaks, instead, in the subtle voice of archetype, in the whisper of image and sensation. Take a moment to sit upright in your bed, or if you feel compelled, rise gently and find a quiet place. Close your eyes not to sleep, but to perception. What do you feel? Not merely in your body, but in the deeper currents of your being. The modern man has grown deaf to the voice within, so accustomed he is to the noise of the world. But in these hours, there is silence. And in silence, there is room for the soul to speak. Often, people report feeling anxiety in these early hours. But I tell you, what they label as anxiety may well be the soul's longing for attention. Do not repress it. Meet it. Greet it. Ask it, who are you, and why have you come? It is in the dialogue with such figures, often unseen but deeply felt, that healing begins. We must make room for the encounter, or risk banishing a vital message into the shadows. Remember, the goal of analysis is not to perfect the ego, but to create a relationship between the ego and the self. Waking at this hour presents an unexpected opportunity for that dialogue to begin. And so, when you find yourself awake before the dawn, turn not to the world, but to yourself. There is much to discover. The second thing you must do upon waking in this liminal time is to recall the dream, if one has visited you. Dreams, as I have long said, are the royal road to the unconscious. They do not lie, though they often speak in riddles. If you have been woken suddenly, it is possible the dream has delivered its final message just before your return to waking life. Do not dismiss it. Seek to remember it, even in fragments. Write it down, however small, however absurd it may appear. The unconscious is not concerned with your ego's standards of logic. Its language is symbolic, timeless. A man pursued by a wolf, a child lost in a forest, a stairway descending into darkness. These are not mere images, they are psychic facts. They are as real as the sun and the stars. If you begin to record your dreams regularly, you will start to see patterns emerge, themes repeat, and a dialogue will form. In these hours, the barrier between the waking ego and the unconscious is thin. You are nearer the waters of the psyche than you will be all day. Use this opportunity. To reflect on your dreams is to engage in a sacred art older than psychology itself. The ancient peoples understood this, though they lacked our terminology. They revered dreams as messages from the gods. We, more modern, see them as messages from the self. Do not rush to interpret too quickly. Let the image speak. Let it breathe. Often the image knows more than you. You must become the student, not the master. In this, humility is essential. Remember always, the unconscious has a wisdom the ego does not possess. And so, in this second act, let your dream be your guide. The third imperative, upon waking at such an hour, is to recognize that you may be in the presence of the shadow, that unseen companion who walks beside each of us, formed of all that we reject, deny, and repress. The early hours of the morning are when the light of consciousness is at its dimmest, and thus when the shadow is closest. This is not a time to fear, but to listen. The shadow is not evil, it is merely unknown. To engage with the shadow is a courageous act. It requires honesty, brutal at times. You must ask yourself, what am I refusing to see about myself? What truth have I buried under my achievements, my persona, my daily obligations? The answers will not flatter you, but they will free you. For what is repressed does not die, it festers. But what is brought into awareness may be transformed. You may experience guilt, anger, or melancholy in these hours. These are not symptoms of disorder, they are invitations to integration. The psyche seeks wholeness, not perfection. And to be whole, one must reconcile with one's darkness. I have always said, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. The 3 AM hour is the sacred threshold where such work can begin. So I urge you, speak inwardly to the parts of yourself you have cast out. The jealous one, the fearful one, the wounded child. Invite them into the conversation. Ask what they need, what they wish to teach you. This is not weakness, it is strength. And it is in this inner dialogue that the alchemy of the soul begins. In this silent hour, when the rest of the world lies dormant, the psyche becomes a vessel for profound meditation. I do not speak here of techniques imported or commodified, but of true inner stillness, a wordless dialogue with the self. In the absence of distraction, we are most capable of hearing what has always been present, the guiding whisper of the inner world. To meditate at this hour is not to escape the world, but to re-enter it more fully, more consciously. Sit, not to empty the mind, but to become aware of its contents. The symbols that rise, the images that flicker, they are the language of the soul. Do not chase them away. Observe, witness. The psyche, when left undisturbed, will show you what the waking mind ignores. Do not be surprised if during these moments you feel both peace and terror. This is the paradox of the self. It contains all opposites. To meditate at 4 AM is to sit before the great mystery of being, stripped of the persona, naked before the eternal. In this moment, you are neither name nor role. You are essence. That is why so few endure it. But if you can stay, if you can sit and listen, you will receive more than rest. You will receive renewal. It is not sleep we lack, but depth. And depth cannot be achieved through the routine of the day. It requires silence, darkness, and surrender. Meditation in this hour is not a technique, it is an initiation. You are being led into the inner sanctum of the self. Treat it with reverence. After you have stilled the mind, recorded the dream, and greeted the shadow, There remains yet another crucial act, the listening. But this is not the listening of the intellect, always so quick to analyze, judge, and explain away. This is the deeper listening, the kind that does not seek answers, but allows mystery to remain intact. The self does not shout. It whispers. It does not argue. It reveals. To truly hear the self, one must abandon the impulse to control the message. Let the images come. Let the feelings swell. Let the insights rise as smoke from a sacred fire. The moment you grasp too tightly, they vanish. You must become like the old mystics, watchful, patient, surrendered. You may hear things that challenge your identity. You may receive insight that unsettles the comfortable narrative you've built. This is good. This is the sign of movement. The self is not concerned with your ego's safety. It is concerned with your wholeness. It will not flatter you. It will confront you with what you need, not what you want. And so, if you wake in these early hours, listen, not with your ears, but with your being. Do not rush to decode. Do not leap to meaning. The psyche unfolds in its own time, and the self does not operate on the clock of the ego. What matters is that you have heard. What matters is that you are present. That alone is enough to begin the transformation. Now, after such a profound inner encounter, the question arises, what shall you do with what you have seen? It is not enough to glimpse the soul in the darkness, only to abandon it by dawn. The final act is integration, to carry what was received in the early hours into the light of day. This is the hardest task, for the world demands masks, while the self demands truth. Take what you have, felt what you have, dreamt, and reflect upon it gently throughout your day. Let it inform your choices, your moods, your interactions, not overtly like a doctrine, but quietly like a hidden wellspring of knowing. The insights that emerge at 4 a.m. are not meant to remain. There they are seeds. Plant them in the soil of your daily life. Often we are tempted to keep the inner life and outer life separate, but the psyche suffers under this division. To become whole, you must live symbolically. That is to say, your outer life must reflect your inner truth. If your dreams spoke of sorrow, tend gently to the sorrow in others. If your meditation gave you silence, bring stillness into your relationships. This is the great work of integration. The waking at 3 a.m. was not random, it was a summons. If you answer it with honesty, with reverence, then each morning becomes a ritual, each disturbance, a doorway. You are no longer a passive recipient of life. You become, instead, a conscious participant in your own becoming. That is what it means to live psychologically. That is what it means to live authentically. Now that you have met the shadow, listened to the self, and sat in the silence of the soul, it is time, if your body still calls, for it to return to sleep. But this return must not be the same as before. You do not descend again into unconsciousness as one ignorant, but as one who has glimpsed the underworld and carries a light within. You go not as a victim of restlessness, but as an initiate of the night. Before you lay your head back upon the pillow, take a moment to breathe. Offer a wordless gratitude, not to any god you do not believe in, but to the living mystery that pulses within your own being. This gratitude is not religious, it is psychological. It affirms that you have participated in your own becoming, and that, my friends, is a sacred act. You may feel tired, yes, but it is the tiredness of the soul after pilgrimage. Allow your body to sink into the bed, not as escape, but as surrender. And as you drift, allow the final images, sensations, or whispers to pass through you like soft winds. Do not hold them. Let them fall as seeds into the fertile earth of your unconscious. There they will grow. And remember, every descent into sleep is also a return to the source. The Greeks knew this, and so did the mystics. To sleep consciously, even for a few moments, is to affirm the life of the soul. You are no longer a passive sleeper. You are a soul in dialogue with the depths. Go now, with awareness, into that silence. There is much more to be revealed. When the hour between 3 and 5 calls not once, but many times, it is no longer a passing phenomenon, it is a pattern. And in psychology, when something repeats, we must assume that the soul is speaking with increasing urgency. The unconscious does not knock once and leave. It returns, again and again, until it is seen, heard, and integrated. Recurring awakenings are often misunderstood as anxiety, insomnia, or imbalance, and yes, they may carry those expressions. But behind the form is a function, and that function is communication. If you are awakened repeatedly at this liminal hour, you are standing at the threshold of your own transformation. The self is knocking. Will you open? The psyche is not linear, and it does not work according to the convenience of the ego. It speaks in images, in moods, in dreams, and yes, in disturbances. A recurring 4 AM awakening is not dysfunction. It is the psyche creating space. It is the unconscious clearing silence so that something long buried may rise. You may not know what it is yet, but you know it is near. Treat the recurrence not as a problem to solve, but as a mystery to engage. Ask yourself, what theme in my life remains unaddressed? What is being neglected in the daylight hours that returns at night? Perhaps it is grief. Perhaps it is purpose. Perhaps it is a part of you, lost long ago, now returning to be reclaimed. This is the soul's way, quiet, persistent, and deeply symbolic. Follow it. All of this sacred waking, this inner listening, this returning to dreams and dialogues with the shadow is not simply a spiritual exercise, it is the great pilgrimage of the soul toward individuation. That is, toward becoming who you truly are beneath the roles, personas, and expectations that have been layered upon you. Individuation is not perfection, it is wholeness. And wholeness includes both light and shadow, waking and sleep, day and night. When you wake between 3 and 5, you are not being asked to perform. You are being asked to be, to feel, to remember, to turn toward the inner life that so many have abandoned in favor of the external. This path is not easy. It demands courage, solitude, and patience, but the reward is authenticity. The reward is to walk the world as one who is rooted not in illusion, but in truth. Each 4 AM moment, then, is not an interruption, is a step toward the center, a step toward the self. And so, I leave you with this thought. If you wake again tomorrow, or the next night, or many nights after, do not despair. Do not seek only to sleep. Seek instead to know. For the soul that wakes you has been with you all along, waiting not for the right time but for your attention. That, my friend, is the beginning of becoming whole. So, dear one, if you wake again between the hours of 3 and 5, know that it is not merely the ticking of time that has stirred you, it is the timeless stirring within you. Do not flee from it. Do not drug it, scroll past it, or silence it with noise. Turn instead toward it, like one turning toward a distant star in the night sky. These hours are not a punishment. They are not a flaw in your biology. They are, in many cases, an unspoken summons from the unconscious, from the self. That greater being within you, which holds your wholeness, your truth, and the map of your becoming, calls not in the daylight, but in the silence before it. He who listens at 3 AM will come to know himself in ways daylight cannot offer, for in the dark, stripped of distraction, the soul speaks plain. And if you will listen, truly listen, you may begin to live, not from the surface, but from the center. Now go, not just into sleep, but into deeper life. And remember, what disturbs you in the night may yet awaken you to the truth of who you are.